this is Coach Hall, and in this lesson we're going to talk about the triple A's of effective listening, and we're also going to look at the 3 basic listening models. Perhaps you'll be able to identify with one of these models, or maybe all 3, and we can also look at how we go about listening. So if we really want to be effective listeners, so that we're demonstrating that we're trying to fully understand those around us, and we demonstrate this, and hopefully they will do some of the same, we need to focus on these 3 A's, which are the triple A's of effective listening. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to make ourselves available, fully available, which basically means that we can't be doing this. Yeah, I hear you. Wait a minute. Yeah, go ahead. You're not making yourself available. Put the phone down, okay? No smartphones. Turn the TV off. No distractions. So we want to make sure that our mind is clear of any thoughts, so even if everything's off, we could be off thinking about something else. I gotta get to the grocery store. I forgot those onions. I got that soup I'm making later. And your friend's talking to you. You have no idea what they're saying because you're thinking about making a soup. So we want to make sure our mind is clear and that we're really ready to receive the information that is coming our way. Okay? We may have to move to a distraction-free zone. If there's a lot of noise going on, and some of us, just the slightest bit of noise. If you're near an airport and airplanes are going all over the place, or there's a lawnmower going on outside, maybe you need to go to a quiet area so that you can really listen. Okay, and the next thing you want to do is, if you're standing up, you want to get eye to eye on the person. Okay, you don't want them looking down at you, and you don't want them to be looking. You want to try to get eye to eye. So usually sitting down across from somebody, you don't have to have a table between you. In fact, it's probably best that you don't, so you can really get into looking at the entirety of their body. Okay, so when the next phase that we want to look at, and by the way, when we do this available things, we're physically available, emotionally available, and mentally available. So if we've got some things going on and we're emotionally not there, we need to communicate this. I can't really effectively listen to you. I'd like to, but I'm really kind of messed up right now. I've got some sadness going on. I'm kind of an emotional wreck right now. You can tell me what you want to say, but I'm not going to really, truly and deeply understand you to the level I'd like. And you maybe can delay it, or at least put that out there so they understand that you might not get everything the way they would like you to get it. Okay, so that's an option for you. But you want to make sure you're available physically, mentally, and emotionally. Now we want to be attentive to their needs. A number 2 is attentive. Okay, A number 1 is available. Really, available is the first thing. Attentive and aware, which are the other 2 words, they don't really have a place or an order. Available is going to be 1, but attentive and aware don't really have an order to things. Depends on the situation. So we're just going to start with attentive. We want to be attentive to the needs, to the direction of the conversation, and to support that might be required or needed. To the efforts of the person who is speaking, okay? Whatever their needs might be, however the direction of the conversation is going, to be supportive. So we want to, at this point, maybe paraphrase. If they go on and say, listen, I'm getting lost here for a second. You said this, this, and this, and this. Am I right? Okay, I got you. So we're trying to be fully understanding by helping with the direction, and supporting them by helping them with how they're going about structuring the information that they're exchanging with us. We're going to be looking for exchange cues. If they're in mid-sentence, and blah, 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 it's not time to interrupt. If you get a little pause, then you know, hey, it's maybe time for me to interject. I want to pay close attention to what is being communicated. Okay, not just the words, but how they're saying them. Okay, we want to look at your body position relative to theirs. Okay, so if they're close in on you, you want to lean in on them too. Okay, if they lean in and you move back, that's a signal to them that, oh, wait a minute, you don't want to hear me. Okay, so you want to kind of mirror what's going on. If they're speaking quickly, you want to try to speak quickly with them. Now, this could be confusing in terms of where these bullet points line up in terms of what we're going to talk about with aware and attentive. Attentive is to your partner, whoever it is you're conversing with. Aware is just acknowledging what's happening all around, including yourself. This is inclusive of yourself. Being aware of your body language and their body language. Being aware of their emotional signals and your emotional signals. Being aware of the overall subject matter. What are we talking about here? Where are we going? Are we off on a tangent? Or what's happening here? So attentive is really, we're focusing on them, and aware is being inclusive in this exchange. So being aware. We're also going to be aware of their energy level, their level, and their attitude. And if it's down, we want to match it, but be a little bit up, a little bit up. We want to try to bring them up. If they're a little bit closed, we'll start off a little closed, but we want to bring them open, try to get them open. So we're trying to get more out so we can get more clarity and understanding. We want to look at their skin tone, okay? Their pace and their volume of their speech. So we're aware of it, and we can go back to being attentive by matching it. Okay, they're doing it, I'm going to do it too. Just so we're building more rapport, especially with folks that you're not super close with. These might be strangers, they may be acquaintances. You wouldn't really put them in the close friend category because you don't know them that well. Other people that you know really well, you don't have to be quite as on top of that part of it as well, because you want your personality to come through so they trust that you're not just trying to mimic them and they don't feel like you're doing something to them, right? You want it to be as natural as possible so that trust and rapport remains. We want to be paying close attention to what is being communicated through our facial expressions, okay? Our emotions and our gestures, okay? You know, we don't want to be going, that's probably not going to go over so well. And if somebody is upset and trying to express, you know, something deep and you're goofing off and, you know, making funny gestures. So we want to pay attention to all of these sorts of things. Your tone of voice and your body posture and gestures. These are all critical. These are the triple A's or the 3 A's of effective listening. Now let's move on over to listening models. Okay. Now we want to be applying the 3 A's, but we also want to make sure that when we look for our cues to exchange, that we are not doing the very first one here. This is the worst form, but honestly, you see this more often. I know in my own personal life, I think 95% of my friends, this is the model that they choose. Most people choose this model. And this is a competitive or combative model. Now it sounds terrible, but this is what's going on. We're listening, but we haven't made ourselves fully available. Okay? So making ourselves fully available is really listening and paying attention. So some of our friends might be, you know, not quite available. They're checking their social media, looking at messages, doing whatever, and they're not making themselves available. So now you're having to compete for attention, okay? And that's a form of competition. Now, some people are trying to compete for attention themselves, even though they've given you their full attention. Now they are biting onto a particular word. They've heard a word and suddenly, boom, that's a trigger, and I've seen it with some of my friends where the eyes literally roll to the top of their head. You know they're no longer really fully paying attention to the rest of what you have to say, and they're just waiting for you to take a breath so they can get out what they want to say. So it's like a competition. It's my turn to speak. I want to speak now. I got to speak now. Let me speak now. Okay, instead of just listening to you and giving you the floor, right? So now it becomes almost combative. You hear people talking louder and louder and on top of each other. I've sat back and just watched conversations, and it's funny. It starts off like this, and the next thing you know, they're talking like this, and they're on top of each other, and that they're interrupting one another all the time. This is a very competitive and combative way of communicating. You probably know a few people that are like that, and you're probably guilty of this yourself. I know that I've done this a number of times, and now that I've been made aware of this years ago, I try to do this less and less. Even though once I'm around some of my buddies, I get caught up into it myself. But when we really want to understand one another, and it's just not for giggles and good times, we need to not operate in this model. This is a terrible model, because this is an easy way to turn somebody off, to get somebody to go, you're not listening to me. I don't want to even bother talking to you. And if you do this a lot, they won't even come to you to begin with, because they know it's coming. They know that you're going to bite down on a certain word. And suddenly they're lost. And then you have this lack of understanding. Now, the second way is a compassionate, passive, attentive way to listen. You're basically giving the person the floor fully. At first, this is delightful, right? I want all the lights on me. I get to talk. It's almost as if, well, I'm doing it right now, right? I'm on the camera. There's nobody interrupting me. You have the power of hitting the pause button or the stop button or the next lesson button, but I have the full floor at this point. And if we were in a workshop together, I would be up here talking, and you would likely give me the courtesy of not interrupting, because we don't typically do that when we go to see people live. We sit back and we listen. We watch. We give them the full stage. Now, the problem with this is that we can get so caught up on this that the person who's speaking, who really initially wants to get some things off their chest, but they're actually looking for some feedback, if you're just fully looking at them as if they're on a TV screen and you're just sitting waiting for them to say the next thing, you're not listening for the cues. You're not participating. And communication is a two-way street. So yes, the person might come in and they might take the first 10, 15 minutes and not even take a breath. You're like, man, that's a long sentence. And when is that person going to breathe? And they talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. But at some point, they're going to want to know that they've been understood. And they only know that by maybe asking questions or getting some kind of clarity from you. So if you're not expressing an understanding and your facial expression is just this, you don't ever blink, the person that's talking is at some point going to, hey man, are you awake in there? What's going on? Have you heard a word I'm saying? We can get in trouble with being overly attentive, if you will, or overly just freeing ourselves of not exchanging. Well, I'm going to just give you the stage. I'm going to watch you and get all voyeuristic on you. We don't want that either. Now, this is a great way to communicate with young kids early on, because kids want to be understood, and it's really hard to understand them at times, especially since we're adults and our thinking and communication is far more complicated than the simple ways in which children communicate. This is a good way to help build bonds with your children. We don't want to continue doing this throughout their entire childhood up until adulthood. We want to slowly move into the next model, which is the preferred model, the best model, which is a cooperative, collaborative, active, reflective way of communicating. The speaker needs some assurances that they're being understood, and this is the best method to do that, because what you're going to do is you're going to interject from time to time feedback by paraphrasing what it is that they've said. So, Coach Hall, what you're telling me is that there's these three basic ways of listening. We're listening for trigger words, and we are being kind of competitive and taking turns, like I want my turn and you want your turn. And there's also this way of just not really communicating. It's more like just listening, which is the second way. And then there's this third way that you're talking about, which is really listening, participating, and really engaging by repeating back some of what it is that they've said, so that that person who's speaking really gets it, that you've got it. And that's what we're talking about here. Paraphrasing, feeding back, giving back some information. That way they know. And then, of course, it's a back and forth, an exchange. Well, here are my thoughts, and here are my feelings, here are my concerns, and this is what I would like, and can I get this from you? I'll give you this if you give me that. This is the collaborative, cooperative, active, and of course the paraphrasing is a reflective way, so that each side, if both sides are doing this, you can really get some great communication. Apply the 3 A's of effective listening, apply the cooperative, collaborative, active, reflective model of listening, and your communication skyrockets. Practice, practice, practice. If you have a study buddy, begin this now. Start talking in this fashion. This is a fabulous way to move this knowledge that I'm presenting to you into practice, so it becomes experience, and then we can move it into understanding. If you do this, I guarantee your life is going to take off. Everybody's going to want you in their lives, because you are a person who listens, and you are a person who really understands how to communicate effectively by doing these simple things. Practice the 3 A's of effective communicating, and using this cooperative, collaborative, active, reflective model of communication.